Jisoo huddled in the darkened holding cell of the derelict research station, her luminescent skin dimming with each passing solar cycle. The Zenturian science vessel had departed hastily 3 cycles ago when the nearby star began showing signs of instability. In their rush, they had simply forgotten about their specimen, or perhaps, as Jisoo feared, they had deliberately left her behind. The room that had been her home for the past 7 years felt colder than ever before. Her cell measured exactly 12 steps by 8 steps. She had counted them thousands of times during her captivity. The transparent barrier that separated her from the corridor outside was designed to contain her light emissions, preventing her from communicating with any other specimens that might have been aboard. Now, that same barrier trapped her with dwindling supplies and failing life support. Jisoo pressed her 6-fingered hand against the cold surface of the viewport. The approaching solar flares painted the darkness of space with violent ribbons of orange and red. The unstable star pulsed angrily, each flare growing larger than the last. According to the station's automated warnings, a major ejection would reach them within 9 days. The emergency power reserves would last perhaps another week if she was lucky. Her species, the Lumidians, communicated primarily through patterns of light that rippled across their skin. In isolation, with no one to speak to, Jisoo's natural luminescence had grown fainter. The patterns that once danced brightly across her blue-tinted skin now barely flickered like dying embers. The Zenturians had been fascinated by this biological feature, studying how her light patterns changed under different conditions, often painful ones. She remembered the day they had captured her. She had been young, barely an adolescent, exploring the edges of her home nebula with friends. The Zenturian research vessel appeared without warning, deploying capture drones that separated her from the others. While her friends escaped into the cosmic dust clouds where Lumidians naturally sheltered, Jisoo was brought aboard for scientific study. The head researcher, Dr. Vex, had documented everything about her. Her ability to perceive spectrums of light invisible to most species, the way her skin glowed brighter when she experienced strong emotions, how her kind could survive the vacuum of space for short periods. His tests had been thorough and merciless. "You are helping advance science," he told her repeatedly, as if that justified the pain. Now, Jisoo sat on her small sleeping platform, watching the emergency lights flicker. The station's automatic systems had sealed off most sections to conserve oxygen and power. Food dispensers had stopped working yesterday. Water recyclers were failing. The temperature dropped steadily as heating systems shut down to preserve critical functions. Jisoo had no illusions about her fate. The Zenturians had clearly calculated that returning for one test subject wasn't worth the risk posed by the unstable star. Or perhaps in their rush to evacuate, she had simply been forgotten. Either way, the result was the same. She would die here, alone, her light extinguished forever. She had tried everything to escape. The emergency protocols had locked all doors and transport systems. Communication arrays were unresponsive. Escape pods had been launched during the evacuation, all except the damaged one in Bay 4, which the diagnostic system showed was missing critical components. On the 3rd day of solitude, Jisoo had made peace with her fate. Lumidians believed that when they died, their light essence returned to the stars. Perhaps her energy would join the final explosion of the dying sun. There was a certain poetry to that end. She began a traditional death meditation, slowing her breathing and heartbeat, preparing her spirit for the final transition. The vibrant memories of her homeworld flooded her mind. The floating spires of crystal where her family nested. The light chorus at dawn when thousands of her kind communicated in a spectacular display visible across vast distances. The gentle touch of her mother's light against her own. The sharp blare of the proximity alarm jarred her from meditation. Jisoo's eyes snapped open, her skin flashing briefly with surprise. A burst of yellow rippling across her body before fading back to dim blue. The station's automated defense system had detected an approaching vessel. The main screen in her cell flickered to life, showing a small ship maneuvering toward the docking bay. It wasn't Centurion in design. The hull was darker, more compact, built for speed rather than scientific exploration. Ji-Soo recognized the configuration from data files she had been shown during cultural studies. A human vessel. Humans were rare in this sector of space. The Zenturians considered them unpredictable and potentially dangerous, though Ji-Soo had secretly been fascinated by the files she'd read about them. Unlike most spacefaring species who had evolved toward cold logic, humans retained their emotional nature even as they reached for the stars. They were known for their adaptability, resilience, and what some species considered an irrational compassion for other life forms. The small ship drew closer, clearly preparing to dock. Ji-Soo watched with growing anticipation as the vessel expertly navigated the debris field that surrounded the station. Whoever piloted the craft was skilled. Hope, an emotion Ji-Soo had nearly forgotten, began to stir within her. Her skin brightened slightly, rippling with cautious blue-green patterns. The proximity alert changed tone, indicating successful docking. Soon after, the station's internal sensors detected a new life form entering through airlock 2. The human was moving through the corridors, seemingly checking rooms, looking for survivors, or perhaps just salvaging valuable technology before the station was destroyed. Ji-Soo pressed herself against the barrier of her cell, her hand splayed on the transparent surface. She concentrated, forcing her dimmed light to pulse in an emergency pattern. Bright, pulsing flashes that took tremendous effort in her weakened state. The human was getting closer. Ji-Soo could hear footsteps now, echoing through the empty corridors. She pulsed her light again, stronger this time, pouring her remaining energy into the signal. The footsteps paused, then quickened, heading directly toward her cell. Ji-Soo trembled with exhaustion and hope as a figure appeared in the corridor outside her prison. For the first time in 7 years, she might have a chance at freedom, if only the human would understand she needed help. Lieutenant Tahoe had been mapping the outer reaches of the Cygnus arm when his sensors detected the abandoned station. Moving through the corridors with his scanner, he detected a faint biosignature, unlike anything in his database. The salvage ship Wanderer was a small but reliable vessel that had served Tahoe well for the past 6 years. He had purchased it after leaving the Earth Defense Fleet, preferring the solitude of deep space exploration to the rigid hierarchy of military service. The ship's systems had alerted him to the derelict station just as he was preparing to jump to the next sector. Unknown structure ahead, the ship's eye had announced. Minimal power signature detected. Structure appears to be a research station of non-human origin. Tahoe adjusted his course immediately. Abandoned stations were rare finds and could contain valuable technology or resources. More importantly, they often held historical data that helped piece together the complex puzzle of galactic civilizations. As he approached, the sensors revealed more details. The station orbited dangerously close to an unstable star. According to his ship's calculations, the star would release a major flare within the week that would likely destroy the station completely. Perfect timing. Tahoe muttered to himself as he carefully maneuvered toward the docking bay. Just enough time to explore and get out before things get hot. The docking procedure was trickier than expected. Several external ports were damaged, and debris floated around the station, creating a hazardous approach. Tahoe relied on his years of flight experience, guiding the Wanderer through the obstacle course with practiced precision. Once docked, he suited up in his exploration gear. The standard suit offered protection against radiation, vacuum, and most common environmental hazards. He strapped his multi-scanner to his wrist and holstered a pulse pistol at his hip. Not that he expected trouble, but years of solo exploration had taught him to be prepared for anything. Ship, maintain docking seal, and be ready for emergency departure, he instructed the AI. If that star hiccups, I want to know immediately. The airlock cycled, and Tahoe stepped onto the station. The artificial gravity was still functioning, though at a reduced level that made his movements slightly bouncy. The air was thin but breathable, tasting stale and metallic in his lungs. His helmet light illuminated a corridor decorated with intricate symbols etched into metallic surfaces. He recognized the architectural style as Centurion, a species known for their scientific pursuits and somewhat questionable ethics regarding other life forms. The Centurions had minimal contact with humans, generally viewing them as primitive and emotional creatures, unworthy of serious scientific partnership. "What were you studying out here, so far from your territory?" Tahoe wondered aloud as he made his way deeper into the station. His scanner picked up faint power signatures from the station's core, suggesting emergency systems were still operational. More interesting was a very faint biosignature that didn't match any species in his database. Something was alive on this station. Tai-Ho followed the reading through darkened corridors where emergency lights flickered weakly. The station's layout was typical of Centurion design, practical and efficient, without aesthetic considerations. He passed several laboratories with equipment he didn't recognize, making mental notes to return and examine them before departing. The biosignature grew stronger as he approached what appeared to be a secure section of the station. A heavy door marked with warning symbols blocked his path. It took him several minutes to figure out the emergency override, but eventually, the door slid open with a reluctant groan. Beyond lay a corridor lined with transparent cells, a containment area. Most were empty, but at the far end, his scanner indicated the source of the biosignature. As he approached, Tai-Ho noticed a faint, pulsing light coming from the cell. The cell contained a being unlike any he had encountered in his travels. The creature appeared humanoid in basic shape: 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. But its skin emitted a soft blue glow that pulsed in patterns. The being was slender, with delicate features and large pupilless eyes that reminded him of the night sky. 6 fingers extended from each hand, and what appeared to be a fine network of luminescent filaments ran beneath the skin. When the being noticed him, the light patterns changed dramatically, pulsing more rapidly. Tai-Ho couldn't tell if this was a sign of fear, excitement, or something else entirely. He approached the transparent barrier carefully, raising his empty hands to show he meant no harm. The cell was marked with Centurion symbols that his translator program struggled to fully decipher. Something about specimen and like communication study. "Hello? Is anyone there?" he called out, his voice sounding strangely loud in the abandoned corridor. The beam pressed closer to the barrier, the light patterns shifting to a more organized sequence. Tai-Ho realized it was trying to communicate. He activated his universal translator, a device that could analyze unknown communication patterns and search for basic linguistic structures. For a long moment, nothing happened as the translator processed the light patterns. Then, to his surprise, the device produced an audio output, a soft, melodious voice that sounded neither male nor female. "Please, help me." Tai-Ho stepped closer to the barrier. Studying the control panel, decided, "My name is Tai-Ho. I'm a human explorer. Are you trapped here?" The light patterns shifted again before the translator converted them. "Yes, I am Jisoo. The Centurions left me when the star became unstable. Please, the barrier. I cannot open it from inside." Tai-Ho examined the control panel more carefully. It was a standard Centurion security system, but with higher restrictions than he'd seen before. Whatever, or whoever, this being was, the Centurions had been serious about keeping it contained. "I'm going to try to get you out," he told Jisoo, "but I need to understand what's happening here. Why did they leave you behind?" Jisoo's light patterns dimmed slightly. "I am a specimen. They study my light, my species. They left quickly when alarms started. They did not return for me." The thought made Tai-Ho's jaw tighten. Abandoning a sentient being to die was unforgivable by human ethical standards. He worked more urgently at the control panel, using a small tool from his belt to access the internal circuitry. "What are you?" he asked as he worked. "I've never seen a species like yours before." "I am Lumidian," Jisoo replied. "We are few. We hide. Centurions found me when I was young. After several tense minutes, Tahoe bypassed the security protocols. The barrier slid open with a soft hiss. Jisoo stood motionless for a moment, as if unable to believe the barrier was truly gone. Her light patterns shifted rapidly through colors, blue to green to a soft purple. Tahoe stepped back, giving her space. "You're free now. My ship is docked at Airlock 2. We should leave soon. That star won't wait much longer." Jisoo took one hesitant step forward, then another, crossing the threshold of her cell for the first time in years. Her light pattern stabilized into a gentle blue glow as she looked at Tahoe with her strange, starry eyes. "Thank you," she said, her translator-voiced words filled with emotion. I had lost hope. Aboard the Wanderer, Jisoo sat motionless on a small cot in the ship's medical bay, her luminescent skin pulsed with faint blue waves, a sign of uncertainty among her kind. The small human vessel felt strange after years in the sterile confines of the Centurion research station. Here, surfaces were worn but clean, with visible repair patches and personal items tucked into storage nooks. The air smelled different, richer somehow, with traces of food, engine oil, and something earthy she couldn't identify. Tahoe entered carrying a tray of food and water. He moved slowly, careful not to startle her. 3 days had passed since their escape from the station, and the Lumidians still tensed whenever he made sudden movements. "I wasn't sure what you can eat," he said, placing the tray on a small table near her. "I've included several options for my supplies. The scanner says they should be safe for your biology." Jisoo looked at the colorful array of foods with curiosity. The Centurions had only provided nutrient solutions formulated for her specific metabolic needs. They never offered variety or choice. "Thank you," she said through the translator device Tahoe had given her. The small disc converted her light patterns to speech and could translate his words into pulses of colored light only she could fully comprehend. Tahoe sat on a stool across from her, keeping a respectful distance. "I set course for the Arcturus outpost. We'll be safe there from any Centurion patrols while we figure out what to do next." Jisoo's patterns flickered with a mixture of blue and yellow, confusion tinged with fear. "They will look for me. I am valuable research property." Tahoe's expression hardened. "You are not property. You are a person." The concept seemed to trouble Jisoo. She lowered her gaze to her 6-fingered hands, which glowed softly against her lap. "The Centurions did not think so," she said finally. "I was specimen L7291. They'd bred me in their laboratories." Tahoe leaned forward, his voice gentle but firm. "Would you tell me about it? About yourself? I want to understand." Jisoo was quiet for a long moment. No one had ever asked about her before, only about her biological functions and responses. "I am a Lumidian," she began hesitantly. "My kind evolved in the Horsehead Nebula, where light and energy flow in complex patterns. We communicate through bioluminescence and can perceive spectrums invisible to most species." She raised her hand, demonstrating how the light moved beneath her skin in delicate, flowing patterns. "The Centurions created me from genetic material they collected from wild Lumidians. I was born in their laboratory. They engineered me with enhanced light sensitivity to study our communication methods." Tahoe frowned. "Enhanced how?" Jisoo's patterns darkened to a deep indigo, a sign of painful memories. "They modified my neural pathways to process more light information. It allows me to detect subtle variations, but also causes pain when light is too intense." She paused, her lights pulsing slowly. "They were not gentle in their curiosity," she explained quietly, her luminescent patterns flickering. "They tested my limits daily. Light exposure tests, isolation periods to measure how communication deprivation affected my patterns, stimulus response trials that often caused pain." Tahoe's hands clenched at his sides, but he kept his voice calm. "How long were you there?" 7 cycles by your calendar. I have known nothing else." The human stood suddenly, causing Jisoo to flinch back against the wall. her skin flashing with alarm patterns of bright orange. Taiho immediately stilled. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I didn't mean to frighten you. I just needed to move. What the Centurions did to you, it makes me angry." Jisu's patterns shifted to a confused yellow-green. "Angry? For me?" "Yes, for you. What they did was wrong. No sentient being should be treated that way." The concept seemed foreign to her. The Centurions had never shown emotional responses to her suffering. It was always noted clinically, data to be analyzed. "What will happen to me now?" she asked, her translator voice small and uncertain. Taiho sat back down, giving her space. "That's up to you. You're not a specimen anymore. On my ship, you're a passenger, a survivor, maybe even a friend." Friend. The translator couldn't fully capture the complex light pattern that rippled across her skin. Yes, friends are people who care about each other's well-being, who help each other and enjoy spending time together. Jisu processed this concept. The Centurions had taught her many things about different species and cultures, but friendship had never been part of those lessons. The warmth in the human's voice created an unfamiliar sensation within her. Hope. "I would like to learn about friendship," she said finally. Taiho smiled. "We can start now. Friends share meals together. Would you like to try some of this food?" Over the next hour, Jishu cautiously tasted each item on the tray. She discovered she enjoyed sweet flavors and the texture of soft bread. She watched Taiho eat too, fascinated by the casual way he combined flavors and described each food to her. As they ate, he told her about his life, how he had grown up in the human colony on New Sol, joined the Earth Defense Fleet, and eventually left to explore the galaxy on his own terms. He described Earth with its oceans and mountains, the feeling of natural sunlight, and the sound of rain on windows. Jisu listened, her light patterns growing brighter with interest. The Centurions had never shared personal information with her. This exchange felt oddly meaningful, as if Taiho was giving her something precious. "What about your people?" he asked eventually. "Do you know where they are? Would you want to find them?" Jisu's patterns dimmed slightly. The wild Lumidians live in deep space, hiding in nebulae. The Centurions said they are primitive, unable to build technology because energy fields disrupt their light patterns. "I do not know if they would accept one made in a laboratory." "Your origin doesn't define you," Taiho said firmly. "And I've learned that most beings have more compassion than we expect. We could try to find them, if that's what you want." For the first time since her rescue, Jisu's light patterns shifted to a warm gold, a color Taiho hadn't seen before. "I don't know what I want yet," she admitted. "Everything is new." "That's perfectly fine," he assured her. "You have time to decide. No one is rushing you or forcing you to do anything." Jisu considered his words. The concept of choice was as novel as friendship. The Centurions had controlled every aspect of her existence: what she ate, when she slept, what tests she endured. Now this human offered her freedom to choose her own path. "For now," she said carefully, "I would like to stay here, with you, and learn more about being free." Taiho nodded, his expression gentle. "I'd be honored to help you with that." That night, after Taiho showed her to a small cabin she could call her own, Jishu stood before the viewport watching the stars streak by. For the first time, she allowed her natural light patterns to flow without suppression or control. The cabin filled with a dance of blues, purples, and golds, the Lumidian expression of hope. 2 weeks had passed since Jisu's rescue. The Wanderer traveled steadily toward the Arcturus outpost, still 4 days away at their current speed. Over this time, Jishu had begun to adjust to her new freedom. She explored the small ship freely, learning its systems and helping with minor tasks. Her light patterns had grown brighter and more varied, displaying colors Taiho had never seen during their first days together. This morning, Jishu sat in the co-pilot seat on the bridge, watching as Taiho checked their course. She had developed a fascination with navigation, and spent hours studying star charts and cosmic phenomena. "The radiation belt ahead is beautiful," she said, her translator converting her light patterns into words. "The particles create waves similar to how my people communicate." Taeho smiled at her enthusiasm. "Would you like to see it closer? We could adjust our course slightly." Before Jisoo could answer, a sharp alarm blared through the ship. Red warning lights flashed across the control panel. "Ship report," Taeho commanded, his relaxed demeanor instantly replaced by alert focus. 3 vessels detected on long-range scanners. The ship's eye responded. "Configuration matches Centurion research fleet. Current trajectory indicates pursuit course." Jisoo's skin flashed with bright orange fear patterns. "They found us," she whispered. Taeho's hands flew across the controls, bringing up the tactical display. 3 Centurion ships were indeed following their exact course, traveling at high speed. Their configuration suggested they were well-armed research vessels, larger and more powerful than his small ship. "How did they find us?" he muttered, checking their systems for tracking devices. Jisoo's patterns shifted to a deep purple. "Me," she said quietly. "My light signature." Centurions can track specific Lumidian patterns across great distances. They design me to be easily monitored. Taeho set his jaw firmly. "Then we'll just have to outrun them." The Wanderer is smaller and faster in the right conditions. He increased their speed to maximum, changing course toward a dense region of space where navigation would be more challenging. The ship groaned slightly as its engines pushed beyond recommended limits. "Incoming transmission," the AI announced. Taeho hesitated, then nodded. "Put it through." A cold, precise voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel. This is Research Director Mox of the Centurion Science Academy. You have stolen valuable Centurion property. The Lumidian specimen L7291 represents years of crucial research. Return it immediately or face severe consequences." Jisoo shrank in her seat, her light dimming with each word. Taeho's expression hardened. "This is Lieutenant Taeho of Earth. I have no stolen property aboard. I have a rescued survivor named Jisoo who is under my protection. The specimen has no legal status," the Centurion replied. "It was created in our laboratories for research purposes. Your interference violates multiple intergalactic treaties." Taeho cut the transmission and turned to Jisoo. "Don't listen to them. You're not property. You're a person, and I'm not giving you back." His words seemed to strengthen her. Her light pattern steadied into a more determined blue. "What will we do?" she asked. Taeho studied the navigation charts. "The Kylos asteroid field is nearby. It's dangerous, but the Wanderer can maneuver through spaces their larger ships can't. We might lose them there." Jisoo studied the charts, her large eyes taking in details Taeho might have missed. "The field has unusual radiation patterns. It might help mask my light signature. Then that's where we're going." Taeho pushed the engines harder, and the ship shot toward the massive asteroid field that loomed ahead. Behind them, the 3 Centurion vessels adjusted course to match. When they reached the edge of the field, Taeho slowed the ship and carefully navigated between the first floating boulders. Some were small as shuttles, others massive as space stations. They spun slowly, occasionally colliding with tremendous force, sending fragments flying in all directions. "Warning. Centurion vessels still in pursuit. They have deployed smaller scout craft," the AI announced. Taeho cursed under his breath. They're not giving up easily. As they ventured deeper into the field, navigation became increasingly difficult. Taeho's hands moved constantly over the controls, making tiny adjustments to avoid collision. Sweat beaded on his forehead as a particularly large asteroid scraped past them, rocking the ship. Jisoo watched him struggle, her patterns shifting with concern. Then she leaned forward. "There is another way," she said suddenly. "Beyond the asteroid field is a solar prominence from the Kylos star. Lumidians can navigate such energy fields. Our vision allows us to see safe pathways. Tai-Ho glanced at her. Solar prominences are extremely dangerous. The radiation alone could fry our systems. Yes, Ji-Su acknowledged. But I can guide you. The radiation will definitely disable their tracking of my light patterns. A warning siren blared as a scout craft appeared from behind a nearby asteroid, weapons charging. I trust you, Tai-Ho decided. Tell me where to go. Ji-Su moved closer to the view screen, her skin glowing intensely as she focused on the distant star. Her patterns shifted rapidly as she processed information invisible to human eyes. Turn 15 degrees port, then accelerate at full speed for exactly 30 seconds, she instructed. Tai-Ho followed her directions exactly. The ship darted through a narrow gap between two massive asteroids, then shot forward into open space. Ahead, the Kylos star dominated the view, its surface churning with violent energy. Massive arcs of plasma leaked from its surface, extending millions of kilometers into space. Centurion vessels still in pursuit, the AI warned. Ji-Su's instructions came faster now, more confident. Adjust pitch -7 degrees. Prepare to enter the prominence on my mark. Tai-Ho's hands hovered over the controls. The shield generators can't handle that kind of energy for long. We won't need long, Ji-Su assured him. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The Wanderer plunged directly into a massive arc of solar plasma. The view screen automatically darkened as blinding light surrounded them. The ship shuddered violently as energy washed over their shields. Shield integrity at 60% and falling, the AI warned. Inside the prominence, everything was chaos, swirling masses of charged particles and radiation. To Tai-Ho, it looked like certain death. But Ji-Su saw patterns within the chaos. Turn starboard, 30 degrees. Reduce speed 20%, she commanded. Tai-Ho followed blindly, trusting her completely. For 3 tense minutes, they navigated the heart of the solar prominence, Ji-Su calling out adjustments with increasing urgency as the shields weakened. Shield integrity at 15%, the AI announced. 5 more seconds, Ji-Su said, her entire body now pulsing with intense light as she concentrated. Now dive -45 degrees and accelerate maximum. The Wanderer shot downward and burst from the prominence into open space. Behind them, the Centurion vessels had stopped at the edge of the energy field, unwilling to follow. They can't track us through that radiation, Ji-Su explained, her light patterns gradually returning to normal. The prominence scrambled my signature and their sensors. Tai-Ho let out a long breath and leaned back in his chair. He looked at Ji-Su with new respect and admiration. I couldn't have made that navigation without you, Tai-Ho told her. We're a good team. Ji-Su's skin glowed with a pattern of intricate, overlapping spirals in gold and blue, a pattern that her people used to express profound gratitude and connection. The translator struggled to capture its full meaning, simply stating, "Thank you for believing in me." Tai-Ho reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wished. When she didn't, he gently touched her hand. Her skin brightened at the contact, the light pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Set course for Arcturus, he told the AI. Maximum speed. As the stars streaked past once more, Ji-Su watched the Kylos star recede behind them. For the first time in her life, she had used her abilities to help someone else rather than being used for her abilities. The difference meant everything. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ji-Su stepped onto the speaker's platform. 3 years had passed since her rescue from the abandoned Centurion research station. Today, her luminescent skin glowed with confidence and purpose as she faced the assembled representatives of 200 spacefaring civilizations. The chamber itself was impressive. A massive dome with seats arranged in rising circles, each occupied by beings of wildly different forms. Some breathed water in special tanks, others floated in anti-gravity fields. All focused their attention on the Lumidian as she began to speak. Honored representatives, Ji-Su began, her translator converting her light patterns into the standard galactic language. I stand before you as living proof of both cruelty and compassion across species boundaries. The facts of her case were well known by now. After escaping the Zenturians with Tai-Ho's help, they had made their way to the Arcturus outpost. There, Tai-Ho had filed a formal complaint with the Earth Embassy regarding the treatment of a sentient being. What began as a minor diplomatic incident grew as evidence of the Zenturian research program was revealed. The Zenturians had tried to dismiss the case, claiming Jisoo was engineered property with no legal rights. But Earth's legal team, joined by representatives from 12 other species, had fought fiercely. The case slowly worked its way through the galactic legal system until it reached the highest authority. I was created in a laboratory. Jisoo continued, her light patterns rippling with emotion, designed to be studied. I knew nothing of freedom or choice until Lieutenant Tai-Ho opened my cell door and told me I was a person, not a specimen. In the front row of the human section, Tai-Ho sat watching with pride. He wore his old Earth Defense Fleet dress uniform, polished for the occasion. Beside him sat Admiral Kim, who had taken personal interest in the case and provided critical support when the Zenturians had demanded Jisoo's return. During my confinement, I was told my people were primitive, unable to build technology or participate in galactic society. Jisoo said, "This was a deliberate lie to prevent me from seeking them." The discovery of the true Lumidian civilization had been one of the most surprising developments of the case. With Tai-Ho's help, Jisoo had searched for traces of her people in the vast databases of galactic knowledge. They had found hints, legends of light beings who dwelled in nebulae, old trading records mentioning encounters with creatures of pure energy. Following these clues, they had ventured into the Horsehead Nebula, where Jisoo's genetic ancestors originated. There, hidden within the swirling cosmic gases, they discovered an advanced civilization. The Lumidians had developed technology that worked with light and energy rather than metal and circuits. Their cities were intricate patterns of controlled energy fields, invisible to most species sensors. The Lumidians had been deliberately hiding from other species after early encounters with the Zenturians centuries ago. Jisoo's arrival had opened the first diplomatic channel in generations. "Today's ruling is not just about me," Jisoo continued. "It is about all beings who think and feel, regardless of their origin. No one should be treated as property because of how they came into existence." The Council's decision had been announced an hour earlier. In a historic ruling, they had established the Jisoo precedent, a new galactic law that declared all sentient beings, whether naturally evolved or created through technology, possessed inherent rights that could not be violated for research purposes. Additionally, the Zenturian Science Academy had been heavily sanctioned and required to release all research subjects currently held in their facilities across the galaxy. Inspectors from the Council would oversee this process. "A single human taught me that freedom is not a privilege, but a right inherent to all thinking beings," Jisoo said, her light patterns forming the beautiful spiral pattern that signified deep emotion among her kind. "Today, you have affirmed that principle for countless others." When she finished speaking, the chamber erupted in the varied sounds of approval from hundreds of different species. The Earth delegation stood in human applause, joined by many others who had adopted the gesture. After the formal proceedings, reporters from across the galaxy crowded around Tai-Ho and Jisoo in the grand hallway outside the chamber. Hovering camera drones transmitted the scene to trillions of beings on countless worlds. Lieutenant Tai-Ho called out a reporter from the Galactic Unity Network. "You risked interstellar incident and personal danger to help Jisoo. What made you take such a risk for someone you didn't know?" Tai-Ho glanced at Jisoo, who now stood tall and confident beside him, so different from the frightened being he had found in that cell 3 years ago. He smiled slightly before turning back to the reporter. "I just did what any human would do," he said simply. "We don't leave people behind." Later that evening, a celebration was held at the Earth Embassy. Representatives from 24 species mingled in the large reception hall, including a small delegation of Lumidians who had traveled from their nebula home for the historic occasion. Their light patterns filled the room with dancing colors as they communicated among themselves and through translators with the other guests. Jisoo found Taiho standing alone on a balcony, looking up at the stars. "The Lumidian Council has asked me to continue serving as ambassador," she said, joining him at the railing. "They feel my unique perspective bridges our worlds." Taiho nodded. "You've accomplished more in 3 years than most diplomats do in a lifetime. None of it would have happened if you hadn't opened that cell door," Jisoo replied, her patterns shifting to the gold and blue spirals that she knew he recognized as gratitude. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if any other species had found that station." "Someone would have helped you," Taiho said confidently. Jisoo's patterns formed a pattern equivalent to a gentle human smile. Perhaps, but it was a human who did. Inside the reception hall, someone had pulled up the Galactic Reddit feed on a large display screen. The trending post about the day's events had now reached over 200,000 upvotes, with comments flooding in from across the galaxy. /Zenturian Reformer. "As a Zenturian, I apologize for my government's actions. Many of us have been fighting for research ethics reform for decades. This ruling will help change our society for the better." /Lumidian First Contact. "I remember when Jisoo first arrived in our community. We thought she was a myth, the lost ones our elders spoke of. Now she has brought us back into the galactic community with honor." /History Nerd 42. "This is why humans are gaining influence beyond their technology level. They make decisions based on principles, not just calculations." /Starship Captain. "Has anyone else noticed how Ambassador Jisoo's light patterns change when Lieutenant Taiho enters a room? There's definitely more to this story." On the balcony, unaware of the social media discussion, Jisoo and Taiho stood side by side watching the 3 moons rise over the galactic capital. They had traveled so far from that abandoned station, yet the simple truth that had started their journey remained unchanged. Personhood transcended species, origin, and biology. It was a lesson worth crossing the stars to learn.